Wednesday, the 17th of December, 2025. We are in the Enfield Public Works conference room and also online in the Microsoft Teams cloud. And I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:30. Board members present.
Linda Jones.
Eric Russell. Dan Kiley.
I'm David Frack.
Tim Jennings.
Paul Bianco.
Bill Griffin, alternate. Kurt Carhart, alternate.
Ben Jorgensen, alternate.
Okay, Rob Taylor is our staff member. He's off grabbing something from the printer. Nate Miller, what?
Video.
Oh, video. We're recording.
I know, they might want to turn off their video. Yeah. Their cameras. The public.
Oh,
Usually make an announcement.
yeah. Okay, so people who are online, could you turn off your video until you are recognized to speak? Maynard and Dr. Theis. So we need an alternate to fill in for Nate, who has a different planning board meeting to attend tonight as part of his professional responsibility.
I gotta leave at 8, so probably not me.
Okay. Bill, I guess you're elected or elevated. So, we have major item on the agenda tonight is the public hearing for our zoning ordinance revision. For those of you who may not be 100% up to speed, I'm going to briefly describe how we got to where we are, and then we'll go through the relevant portions of the proposed ordinance, and for each article that we go through, after we do the article, we will open up the floor for questions and comments from the public. I'm going to ask that people limit their questions or comments to 3 minutes. I will allow one follow-up question if it relates to the first question that you asked. If you have another question, please wait until the next round, and hopefully everybody will get a chance to express their opinion, and that's where we'll go. So back in, I think it was 2018 or 2019, the planning board embarked upon a new master plan. It was the first master plan in about 24 or 25 years. And our goal was to make it reflective of the needs and wants of the citizens of the town of Enfield. We spent several years working on the master plan. There were many focus groups, public forums, and a lot of opportunity for input from the general public. And we adopted the master plan in end of 23 was the first part, and the second part we adopted about a year ago, the end of 24. So the master plan is the 30,000-foot view of what Enfield envisions itself to be over the next several years. How do we implement the master plan? One of the tools is zoning regulations, because zoning regulations cover land use. Our zoning ordinance that we've been working with dates from 1980 something or other. It's about, it's many, many years old. It's been updated almost every year since. And at this point, it's kind of a hodgepodge. There are contradictions, there are a lot of ambiguities, and we, as a planning board, decided rather than to take individual pieces of the zoning ordinance, we would keep the good parts and kind of build from there. And that's what we've done over the last, I'd say, year, maybe year and a half. We've had 2 public focus groups where people have had an opportunity to contribute their thoughts. We've combined what we learned from the master plan with what people told us. And we've come up with what we think and hope is a reflection of what the community desires by way of growth over the next 3, 4, 5, 10 years. Obviously, it's hard to predict 10 years out, which is why we update our master plan and kind of bring things into a more current time frame. So the goals of, HOP grant. We applied for and received 2 grants from New Hampshire Housing. Basically, it's federal money, and those grants were used to hire consultants, professional planners, to help us work on our zoning update. The current round, HOP 2 we call it, was considerably, we were awarded considerably less money than we had applied for. Very popular grant and not a lot of money left in the state coffers. So we were guided by the grantors to address the sections of town that have water and or sewer available. So what we've done is identified those areas that have water and or sewer, and we have created 3 new zoning districts. We've created, Rob, can you put the map up? We've created a downtown district. We've created the Enfield Village District. The downtown is the purple one. The village is the yellow. And the Enfield Route 4 is in the light green. So those are the 3 areas of town where we've actually made changes to the zoning ordinance. The changes that we've made, we think, reflect what the community wants. They certainly are housing friendly. They make it easier for people to do things with their land, and they preserve the character of the village area, and they also preserve the rural character of the rest of the town, which, again, taking from the master plan, people thought that was extremely important. So we think we've listened. One of the other things that we've done is we've looked at the format or the page layout of how the zoning ordinance is presented. And in doing that, we've taken a pretty major departure from the present zoning ordinance. And the new zoning or the proposed zoning ordinance is in the new format. The parts of town that we did not make any changes to, R1, R3, R5, conservation, and the industrial. Did I miss any? I don't think so. We've put those with the same language into the new format. So with very few, very minor exceptions, those areas have not been changed. We'll tackle those in future years. We also wanted to create a user-friendly document, which is part of the formatting deal. And we also wanted to update the ordinance so that it reflects what's actually built within the 3 districts that we're dealing with, particularly the downtown and the Enfield Village. Right now, I would say the majority of lots in those districts are non-conforming. What that means is if I, as a property owner, want to do something with my property, whether it's adding a shed or an ADU or whatever, I've got to go to the zoning board, which is a somewhat time-consuming and can be a somewhat expensive process. So we've tried to bring the majority of properties into conformance. I guess that's the end of my introductory speech. Let's go through the ordinance article by article. And Rob, can you project it on the screen?
Yeah,
What?
we need to make a motion, we open the public hearing.
That's a good idea.
I'll
Could
second.
somebody, okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Public hearing is now open, officially. So, for those of you that have copies of the December 5th, we are going to start on Article 1, which you'll find on page 11. Do you want to
Sure.
speak on these, Tim?
So we used as a model here some of this boilerplate language, other ordinances from other towns. Probably heavily leaned on the city of Lebanon. They have a professional professional planning staff. They have legal staff that's reviewed their language, and so it's pretty safe that it's written in accordance with state law and meets all those requirements. So part of the wording that's in the black is from those kind of sources, and then we've had to come up with some of our own wording where we didn't have similar articles to these other towns. But throughout the ordinance, in the blue fonts represent wording that we've just carried forward from the old ordinance without any changes. So this first article is just kind of introducing the reason for a zoning ordinance. Takes care of some logistical issues about compliance, administration, conflicts, severability, etc. Just scroll forward, Rob. And I guess I'll just say if there's any of these sections anyone would like to comment on, please do so now.
Okay, let's ask anybody online on Teams have any questions or comments on the introductory section. Okay, seeing none, let's go to Article 2, Land Use Districts.
So Article 2 it starts off just summarizing the land use districts, and you'll see the familiar R1, R3, and so forth, and the three new districts that Dave explained that we've created. We've taken a departure on the zoning map by not setting these districts down by what's known as meets and bounds. So the boundaries are determined by the lots on the ground and from the tax maps. So the maps you have, the sample maps you have there show that. You'll see that those EV and EV4 and EVD districts, you'll see they follow the boundaries of the individual lots. So we tried to make it so that a lot does not fall into two different zoning districts. There are a handful that we just couldn't avoid that, but there are very few. Let's see. This goes on to say, then the permitted land uses. Yeah, it talks about all that good stuff. Instead of, in the old ordinance, I'm going to stand up if you don't mind. And in the old ordinance, each section had a narrative about what's permitted and what's not. And the wording varied for the very same thing, sometimes between those districts. And so we wanted to kind of make that all consistent. So we decided to come up with a land use table. And so there are several pages of land uses that are in a table. You can scroll forward to that, Rob. And here you go. So all the residential land uses are grouped together, all the commercial uses are grouped together, agriculture, industrial, and so forth. And the definition for these particular land uses is right there below the land use title. You don't have to go looking for what that means. It's right there. And then you can look across at the columns to the right and you see the various districts, and it will tell you if that use is allowed in that district. Or if it's allowed, maybe you have to, it's allowed, but you have to get a special exception from the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Or in the case of it's just not allowed, there's an N. Our attorney who's reviewed this has raised an issue that we may need to change, and that this ordinance is what's called a permissive ordinance. In other words, it's written so that it tells you what you can do in the district. If it doesn't mention an item as something that you can do, that means you can't do it. Whereas a restrictive ordinance would just tell you everything you couldn't do. Do I have that right, Renee?
Yes.
Okay. So the attorney said by us putting no or an N there, we're slightly, maybe that's not the best way to handle that. So it may be that we end up just leaving that cell blank, as if it's just, you know, it's not permitted. We got to work through the language on that with the attorney about what that means. But for now, the general idea is you can't put a two-unit dwelling, a duplex, in the if you'll notice over like on the conservation district. It's just not allowed. Now there may be reasons why we might want to reconsider that, but again, as Dave said, we weren't focusing on the rural districts. That was a determination made many years ago, and we didn't want to change that for this version of the ordinance. Scroll forward, Rob. There may be questions about some of these land uses as to why they're permitted in one and not the other. Do we have any of those kinds of questions?
In specifically residential or the other categories?
Yeah, any of the categories.
So I had a, not necessarily a question, but comment for It's on the bulk fuel storage and dispensing facilities. It almost seems, that's on page 28, almost seems like that's better suited in the commercial industry district than the Route 4, the Enfield Village Ford district. It looks like it's allowable possibly by a special exception. And it just seems like, I don't know, in my opinion, it seems like it's more suitable further out in the commercial industrial, and I'm just not sure why it was like thought of for this one and not further out.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Oh, sorry, I was supposed to.
Have to back up and say, please identify yourself and where you live. And will all speakers please identify yourself and where you live for the purpose of the minutes?
Quinn Deserve, 18 Seymour Farm Road.
Thank you.
Does anybody have a good answer for that question? I don't remember that being one that
I think the answer is that it was one that was already allowed, and so we just continued it through, but it's a good comment.
It could be, yeah. I should, correct me if I'm wrong here, David, but what our intention here is that after we hear comments tonight, and then the board, at the close of the hearing, the board will have a brief session where we'll talk about things we might want to change based on what we heard tonight. We've also got a list of things that we probably want to change anyway. And then we're going to work on that over the next 3 weeks, have a working session on January 7th where we come up with a final version of the ordinance. We'll post that on the 9th for a final hearing on the 17th?
Yes.
17th. So, I may be able to answer your question by just saying we will look at that again. Because I hear what you're saying.
I did have another one.
Go ahead.
It's page 19, the dwelling multi-unit, 5 units or more. I feel it makes more sense to be moved to the commercial land use table, unless things have changed based on the New Hampshire Department of Revenue, Administration, Equalization, Property Codes. Apartment buildings with 5 or more units are classified as commercial. So I know that's under the residential piece, but based on those classifications, I feel it should be moved to the commercial land use table.
I think there may be a distinction between what the Department of Revenue considers as commercial and residential versus what zoning and planning consider, and we'll take a look at that. Yeah, we certainly would not want to have an apartment building in the commercial industrial area next to a propane distribution place. I don't think that would be a good.
I'm not saying moving it to just the commercial district, but the categories, because this category is talking specifically just about residential units.
Yeah.
Kurt?
Yeah, if I'm understanding her correctly, it's a cut and paste. You Right, take that block and move it down to the and commercial. and put it in the other category.
Yeah, not change any of the allowances. They would
Okay.
still be,
Yeah,
based on special exception for the EV
Right.
district, allowable for the next 4 and not for the last 3. So yes, just a cut and paste from this category to the next.
We can certainly
We'll take a look at that.
Yes, sir.
So in this.
Identify yourself,
Sorry.
please.
Jason Carter, 174 Ivy Road. In this same section, so you have ADUs and duplexes in R5. An ADU that's attached is basically the same thing as a duplex with a square footage requirement. However, for R5, a duplex is specifically listed as special exception, and an ADU is allowed. So there's a bit of a weirdness there, where if your ADU is too large, then suddenly it becomes a special exception case. I don't think that's desired, unless you're shaking your head yes, that is desired.
I'm shaking my head,
Okay.
but that's the way it is.
Right.
Um,
Seems odd.
We didn't make changes to R5, so that's the existing R5 rules.
Yeah.
And so because we focused on the Enfield Village area, we specifically did not make changes to the R5. So that's what we have today, and so we rolled that forward.
What's the reason not to update it though?
Because we want to be thorough and look at it entirely, so it was a schedule issue for the board. It was a scheduling focus. We limited ourselves to what we were capable of doing in the time frame we had available. And the idea is to review other districts going forward.
And also, it was a financial issue. Our consultants, regional planning, they have a certain amount of money to work with from our HOP grant, and we wanted to maximize the results. So we focus in on the three new areas, those being the areas that have municipal sewer and or municipal water either in place or easily available. And R5 certainly does not fit into that category. Eventually we'll get to it, but unfortunately we have to do this zoning rewrite in phases. Sealy,
Yes,
state your name and where you live, please.
Celia Piero, Enfield, Lock Haven Road. I did not realize when I got this that the whole zoning ordinance have, I know you say no, changes through the whole thing. And so I went through it. I just wanted to make you aware of that. I did make a couple of notes just in the very beginning that we passed all right, which I think is important. And one is that designating the person that is responsible, it's usually the town, the administrator, zoning administrator. And then you have listed the town manager. I really am strongly against having the town manager work on zoning. And I believe it should go to the planning board or the planning chairman if there are questions, because I think there's a total conflict of interest, especially at this time.
We agree.
Right.
What that paragraph you're citing, and I'm going from memory here, I don't have the exact page in front of me, but basically what that paragraph says that if the administrator is unavailable for
Got sick.
he's
He
on
quit.
vacation,
Hadn't hired a
we're
new guy
between
yet.
administrators, then the town manager is charged with exercising his duties for that short period of time, or appointing someone else as the acting administrator. In the past, we have had a circuit rider from regional planning when we were between administrators. And I see no reason why a town manager would even want the extra work burden of administering the zoning office. So, yeah,
I'm still uncomfortable about that. I just don't
okay,
think it belongs in that.
okay, we will talk about it.
Okay. Now, another thing I wanted to ask you, I got a ton of things, but I'm just gonna go over a couple things on the rural, dwelling units in town. Have you done a build-out study on this area? at how many units you would have over the whole area if everyone's developed their lots?
You wanna take that, Tim?
Yeah, let's take that when we get to talking about the EV, the EV4 and EVD districts. Just hold that question. We'll come back to it. Is that all right?
Anything else, Seeley?
No.
Okay, let's move on. I said
I'll
one.
come back that later.
Okay, we'll come back.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other?
Sharon,
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know if this.
say your name, please, and where you live.
Thank you. Sharon Buffet, Enfield, Maple Street. I don't know if this is the time to ask the question, but I have general questions and specific. Now this is specific. Having to do with, I'm a little confused, I don't know if it's right up there, but allowing commercial, by commercial in the Enfield Village as part of a special exception. I really question that, especially since most of that area is residential, and I just can't imagine in my neighborhood having something commercial. That there's many significant changes that you are asking the residents of about 20 streets in Enfield, who are all residential, to go through in this process of changes.
Could you be specific about which commercial use you're
Okay, let's
concerned
see.
about?
I just had it a minute ago.
Hospital or clinic is allowed in the EVD. You know, no one's gonna build a hospital, but certainly a doctor's office, dentist's office might wanna open on.
Okay, I have this from the zoning regulations. So, permitted land use table, Articles 2, Section 2025, special exception. Permitted in these residential streets of Enfield could include additional commercial land use. See proposed zoning ordinance document.
What page are you on?
Well, there's a number of, there's a bunch of different commercial land uses, some of which are allowed in the EV, some of which you require a special exception if you can do, to be allowed in the EV, and some which just are not allowed at all. So you'd have to go through the land use table and pick something like
Okay.
a dog park or whatever that you thought might.
Okay, so you could have a brewery or distillery with a special exception. You could, bed and breakfast is not a problem. And
Is this a special exception? Park and sports market.
And which district are you talking about?
an office and business, it depends on how big the office of the business is.
She was on page 22. I think is where the office business was. 21 is.
Okay,
page
so an office business, that's, and if the definition isn't specific enough, we may need to think about rewording that, but in any event, what's meant here is a commercial office building, essentially. Or it could be an office as part of a commercial section, but in the EV, that requires a special exception before that could be approved. And I think the board had a discussion about that, because there are things called professional offices, which is the next one over. It also requires a special exception in the EV. And it may be that that office business in the EV, we might want to reconsider that.
I would ask you to do that because, or I would ask people to stick to what is in the zoning regulations. I don't like when I see that something can have a special exception, because then we all know where that goes. And before you know it, the people who live in that area really don't have any recourse once the special exception is granted. And then that stays with the property. So I just don't think that belongs. I'm really looking at that you're taking a residential area of 20 streets in Enfield and you're significantly changing them by all of these new regulations. You're increasing the density by 100%. You're allowing, instead of frontage that's 75 feet, you're going down to 15 feet.
Could you hold those comments till we get to that district, please?
Okay, tell me when the proper time is.
I will,
and I will.
and
Thank you.
I'll make sure we do that. But right now, we're just talking about the land uses in the districts, okay? And there are a number of commercial land uses that could be permitted in the EV, but requires a special exception process. We can, as a committee, we can look at that again, rethink that over the course of the next 3 weeks.
Thank you.
Yep. Other questions about?
Sorry, Gwen Dessert, 18 Seymour Farm. I just had a couple of things. On page 20, under clustered housing subdivision, I think that wants to say see Article 6, Section 604.1. 602 is for flagship driveways or something like that. 604.1 is for clustered housing.
Good catch, thank you.
And then the other one another one I have concern on is page 23. It's not concern, but recreation facility outdoor. And on page 26, parks and sports and recreation fields. Both of those reference fields being used and courts being used, but the allowance isn't the same for each district. So like, for the recreation facility outdoor, it's not allowed in the EV district, but it is allowed, but the parks and sports and recreation fields are allowed in the EV district.
Yeah.
So they're both talking, they both have similar information in them, but not necessarily similar answers, so to speak. So maybe take fields and courts out of one and leave it in the other or something, whichever way.
Well, this is, in page 23, we're talking about commercial outdoor uses. So that would be, what would that be?
Mini golf.
The mini golf
Yeah,
thing.
Okay,
where
So
you-
it's more
You gotta
like-
pay money to use.
a
it.
business,
okay, so the larger one, so it's a different kind of.
yeah,
Yeah.
as opposed to a public park.
Okay. Okay, so that makes more sense.
Yep.
And I think that was, this I think is in the same kind of thing. On page 29, forest products processing facility, forest is spelled wrong. So the title.
Thank you.
Yep.
He's already corrected that one.
And I think those are my only things for these sections.
Anyone else?
Let's see if anybody on Teams, we can't see. Okay, where'd Rob go?
Around the corner.
Okay. Let's move on, Tim, and
Okay.
we'll check the online people.
Because we think
Later.
most comments are going to be about the 3 new districts, I want to skip over to R1, which starts on,
Raising his hand.
Okay, let's take a question from Maynard then.
okay?
Hi, Maynard Southern, Shaker Hill Road. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So, Tim, you mentioned that we're not really looking at R1, 3, 5 and those, but I love the land use table. It really did a good job of helping me understand the overlaps and stuff that exist. And I noticed that with the brewery, distillery, cidery, wineries, they seem to be lumped together, but winery tends to require a lot of land. And the way this land use table is done, it means that a winery could do its agricultural stuff in one area, but would not be able to have a tasting room and retail area associated with it, and that's become quite a cottage industry. It seems like at the very least, the prescriptive no should be a special exception for R1, R3, and R5 on something that would require space, because clearly those are entities that generally have to have more space. And the same thing with the recreation facility outdoor. I mean, if you're going to have ski slopes and trails and mountain bike trails, but you're not allowed to have them in R1, R3, and R5, where you have larger tracts of land and have maybe parking of, the ability to have parking for larger things. At the very least, it ought to be special exception, not a prescriptive no.
Yeah.
And likewise with the commercial equestrian facility, you've got to have land to have a commercial equestrian facility. Only limiting that to R5, you don't need to have 5 acres, but so anyway, I just thought when you get around to looking at the actual stuff for R1, R3, and R5, you might think about actual space requirements and whether special exceptions might be a better way to do that.
Absolutely, and actually we have thought about that. We purposely did not address it because we didn't want to change anything in those rural districts. So right now, a winery is not really a permitted use in any of those districts.
Right.
It's one of those it's one of those issues of a permissive ordinance not listing it as an allowed use. So absolutely, when we get a chance next year to come back to these rural districts, we'll make sure that sort of thing is fixed.
Okay, great, thank you.
In relation to the winery thing, the agricultural section does allow the sale of products produced on the property in a quote farm stand. That sounds to me like you can process your own product that is produced on land and sell it, so that would allow a winery with a tasting room to exist.
Probably, and we might want to make that a little more clear, not leave it as ambiguous as that. So,
Excuse me, could
Sorry,
you
Jason
state your
Carter.
name?
Jason
Because
Carter.
we have a remote minute taker,
Yeah.
and she
No,
can't
I
see
understand.
you're
I just
talking.
couldn't remember. Jason Carter, 174 Ivy Road. Sorry.
Okay.
after they've given their name and where they live, can they just state their name the second time?
Yeah.
Yes.
How about that? All right,
Let's
any
move
more
on.
land use table issues?
I'm not sure. I've been looking at
Name.
line
Name,
657,
please.
section 284. Susan Brown.
Hold that, Susan. We'll come back to that section in a moment.
Okay.
Let's go to page 46, Rob.
Oh, I can't watch.
Hang on to your hats.
Pass the Dramamine.
44, 45, 46. Yeah.
Okay, so other than reformatting the old language in the ordinance and putting some sort of explanatory verbiage in here, we didn't change anything in these other districts. But when you read through them, they're a little bit wonky, and some of the language isn't quite as precise as it maybe should be, but that's what's in the old ordinance. And we didn't want to fool with that, because the minute you do, you find yourself hours and hours and hours of cross-referencing and double-checking, and we make sure the intent's correct and so forth. But anyway, so those districts are there, and if you are looking at the old ordinance and you see something that maybe we missed, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that we made a mistake, let us know and we'll correct that, absolutely. See,
I'm just a little confused about this. Is
State your
that
name,
anything
please.
in the blue font?
Silly.
What?
Silly.
Oh, it's Steely Bureau, sorry. Anything in the blue font is existing zoning ordinance. Anything in the black is new wording. So I'm in the, all the way in the back here, going backwards, and everything is, there's a lot of black and a lot of titles and definitions, and so is that new or is that the old ordinance?
If it's in black, it's new verbiage. If it's blue, it's the same wording as the old ordinance.
Okay, so there is a lot then in the back, going backwards.
So we're,
Definitions, some of the things,
we'll get to definitions.
next time.
Well, do you have any specific
I'll
things?
be here.
Specific things
If you
about
let
the-
me, I'll be here.
All right. Anything in the R1? David?
In that page, lot size is black and the rest is blue, which is,
So,
What now?
I think what he's just saying is,
The formatting is new,
Formatting.
so the word lot size in this format does not appear in the existing. And so that's why it's in black, because it's a new word relative to the existing ordinance.
okay. well, thanks for
It's a
that.
title.
And I should say my name was Dave Buffet.
Okay.
Still is.
Okay, let's move on to the R3. Which is, right there. Any questions about the R3 district? Yes, sir.
So super quick, because I know Jason Carter, it's already there. So no lot shall have more than one dwelling or principal building. It should say no lot should have more than one principal dwelling or principal building, since we have ADUs. I know you didn't change it, so we can move on.
Yeah, I agree. That would be better
Huh?
stated that way.
Line 1154.
1154, yeah.
Okay, how about R5 district?
Oh, there it is.
Excuse me. Yeah, so here's an example of just an item that's sort of archaic. Page 54, line 1230, estates. It's been in the ordinance since forever, and as far as I know, there's not a single estate in town that would qualify as an estate. So, that's something we'll probably fix next year. Anyway, moving on.
You don't want to preclude that, Tim. You don't want to preclude that.
Well, there's other, they can have that sort of thing
I'm just
in
kidding.
other provisions. Yeah. All right, how about the commercial industrial district? This encompasses mainly all of the area around I-89.
Page number, please.
That'd be 57. Rob, is there any questions on, from the, online? I should have got a lectern. Okay. Conservation district, page 62. Okay, page 67, Article 3, overlay districts. There's only one. It was set up a couple of years ago by town meeting vote, Enfield Center. But if we want to have others, this is where they would go. Okay, Article 4, general provisions, page 68. This is where we're talking about structure height. And I'll point out something here. If you look at line 16, 17, it says maximum building or structure height 40 feet. So that's meant to apply in any district that doesn't otherwise have a lower height restriction. So the districts that do have a lower height restrictions are everything except the 3 new districts. So all the other districts is 35 feet, and it's specifically cited in the district narratives. The 40 feet, we might as well talk about that now, came from 2 things. One, we asked ourselves the question, why did they ever establish a 35-foot height in the first place? And the word we got is years ago, the fire department was concerned about having buildings too high and their ladder was only so long and so forth. Checked with the fire department, that's no longer an issue because they have the mutual aid, Lebanon and Hanover and others with bigger vehicles and trucks, that's not an issue for them. So we said, all right, then what is the actual heights of the buildings around town? Does anybody know? So we did a building height survey. And lo and behold, we found that all of the, not all of them, but most of those 2.5 story, very common 19th century buildings that we all like and love, most of those are in the 36, 37, 38 foot range. And so we said, well, gosh, we really want to make all of those conforming to the ordinance, so that 35 is a little too low. How far do we want to go? Settled on an even number of 40. We could have chosen 39 or 38, but that just, to make it simple, that's what we went with. In the downtown area, the front face of the Copeland block is about 36 feet from the ground to the top of the parapet. But if you go around the side and you measure on the back side of the building, it's over 40 feet tall. Whitney Hall, I think, is 56 feet tall to the ridge line, if you measure from the back of the building. The village school is 36, 37 feet minus the cupola up on top to the ridge line. And then Kim Quirk's building, I know because I specifically, she allowed me to actually get in the building to measure it. That is 37 feet to the ridge line. So that's the reason why we went with a higher number. Still somewhat arbitrary, but also it just means that everything hopefully that's built will comply with that, and so we won't have anything sticking up that's, that we don't have anywhere else. As long as the ZBA doesn't grant a variance. All right, building height. Any questions about building height? And it describes how to measure that right here. We didn't change that from the old ordinance. Parking and loading, we didn't change anything there from when that was enacted a couple years ago. Let's see. The signage section is complicated and we didn't change anything. Let's see. Keep scrolling through there. Oh yeah. So there's a section here on protection of sensitive resource areas, line 2037, page 80. A lot of these provisions were scattered about the ordinance all over the place. And some of them were kind of contained, but it was really hard to find this information. So we put it all in one section, reformatted it, and hopefully you can find what you need to find here. And all of the other zoning districts refer to this section. If you want to know what your setbacks are to wetlands, or if you can build on a steep slope, or what, it will refer you right here. And yeah. Okay. So any questions on any of that? Yes, sir.
Suggestion for the future, for exterior signs, like Optimistic borders 2 public ways. It might be good to change it from 1 to 1 per public way that is adjacent to the lot. Just an idea.
Yeah, that actually caused a little bit of a heartache for the previous owner, so. I know what you mean. Okay, page 86, requirements for specific uses. So here we have unlike the previous article, which is more general in nature, this is focusing on very specific uses, like ADUs. This is the ADU section we didn't change anything from the way it's written now, except for the fact that we're using a different phrasing when we're talking about single-family homes. That all came to be because a lot of homes these days aren't occupied by families. There's actually 2 or 3 people who are not related, living together, sharing a home. And we just want to make clear that that's not a distinction that town's trying to make anymore. Yeah. All right. Home-based businesses, no change there. Communications towers, I frankly could not understand half of what that was about, but we didn't change anything.
Tim, one question.
Yes, sir.
To go back to the non-related functions in home.
Yeah. State your name, please.
Dave Buffet, sorry. I believe there was, at one of the committees, whether it was planning board or ZBA, and possibly the select board as well, an issue in the past couple of years about a house that was felt to be what's called congregate living. And where is that, and how is that defined?
We chose not to address that at all. I mean, we could. Town of Hanover addresses it because they have school and they've got a long history of not allowing only so many non-related people in the house. We just chose not to touch that issue.
Okay. So it's not allowed because it's not addressed?
There's nothing in the ordinance that would enable the town to go into your house and ask who's living here. Right? So no one's going to be looking. Did I say that right?
I think you did.
Okay.
So did the state. The state basically said you can't do that. You cannot say, well, because if I'm living with someone, we're not related. If it's 3 people, whoever.
So the previous arrangements were...
They pretty much kicked out the Hanover thing.
Okay. But that was something here too.
Right.
Within the past few years. Thank you.
Okay, page 97, subdivisions. A little bit added here about the non-buildable lots, and Mr. Clark, I got your comments about that. If you want to bring them up.
Sure. So Jason Carter. So my one concern about non-buildable lot is that the minimum square footage for a residence in New Hampshire there's only state regulations on this. It goes as low as 70 square feet, with the smallest dimension being 7 feet. So internal dimensions would be 7 foot by 10 foot. So I'll just read what I have here. While I do support tiny houses and other alternative dwellings, I think having lots trend towards this small of a size would inhibit development rather than encourage it. I would recommend the minimum lot size factor in a reasonably small structure that can realistically house a small business. One example of such a business would be the old Red Wagon Bakery in Canaan. By taking the footprint size of that building and applying it to a minimum lot size, I think it creates a more healthy condition for growth that inhibits bad actors from turning downtown into a Swiss cheese of small lots that have limited utility. That's all.
So I think the issue here, if I understood you correctly, is when we say at least a single unit dwelling, how small is that? And that's certainly something we could consider saying this is the minimum size dwelling, I guess. And we would have to debate that. I don't know. Yes.
Susan Brown. I lived in Haverhill for several years, and there's a subdivision there called Mountain Lakes. And they split it up into lots, and there are a lot of them that were not buildable. It's still creating, after 40 years, problems for the town for the taxes and for everything. Haverhill doesn't have zoning, and that would make it even worse. But there shouldn't be non-buildable lots in a subdivision. That's a really good thing to do.
Yeah, we don't want that.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not, so this is just a housekeeping thing. On line 2634, where it says the common driveway serves us, I think it should say serves is.
Yep.
Is, yes.
Thank you. Got it. All right, moving on. Cluster development, that whole section deserves a ton of hours and thought. It's kind of wonky and never been exercised in town, but we left it there for another day. Impact fees, kind of the same thing. This is the enabling wordage. We don't actually have impact fees in town. The board of or the planning board's never taken the next step of putting those together. There's a section on nonconformities, page 106. I'm going to talk about the ZBA, page 107. They actually requested, the ZBA requested the wording changes that are in black here. Dan, I don't know if there's any, you want to speak to any of that? Or are there any questions about that?
What page is that?
Page 107. Okay, let's see. We're getting to page 112, enforcement. Not a whole lot there that's new. And then general definitions. Celia, I think you had some questions about definition.
I did have a statement about the page you just Jason, I didn't get permission.
Yes, sir.
Jason Carter. So on the section on permits, I did notice it's in blue. I do have a concern about that, that I'm quite concerned about. It says at the end, whereby the nature of development, a building permit is not required, no land development for non-residential purposes may commence, et cetera, et cetera. The key here is non-residential and a permit is not required. That means that if you're in an agricultural use situation, it's a non-residential situation. If you have a structure that you're building that's less than 200 square feet, you do not need a building permit. Examples would be like tool sheds, and it goes as far as like row crop coverings, who are also considered a structure. According to that clause, you would need a planning board approval, a site review, etc., to perform what is basically regular agricultural activity, which in the land use table is allowed by right. So I strongly recommend, at the very minimum, an exception for agriculture, if not a reword on that.
Okay.
Yep,
Yeah, we will look at
good
that.
catch.
That's been, yeah, that's been there for a dozen decades.
I didn't see it in the first.
Yeah, yeah.
I have to go back and look.
Okay. Well, it's in the blue, it's in blue fonts, that's
Yeah.
why I know. Yeah. All right, any questions on any of the definitions? Very few of those changed. We did get rid of a few that weren't any applicable anymore, but. And then there's the very last page, there's this section on the Conservation Commission that nobody knows why it's in here, but we didn't want to take it out for fear of unintended consequences. All right.
I was gonna go back, you told me I had to wait.
Okay, so we're going to go back to the to page, the EV district. That would be page 32.
Susan Brown, Susan Brown, and it's section 2,203.3, 203.4 residential housing density limitations. Starts on the bottom of 33, and it goes over on the top of page 34. And it says, up to 4 dwelling units for the first or base 1/4 acre or less, plus 1 dwelling unit for each additional 1/4 acre above the base 1/4 acre. Example 1, 1/4 acre lots or smaller may have up to 4 dwelling units. And then a 1.5 acre lot can have up to 4 dwelling units for the base 1/4 acre, plus up to 5 dwelling units for the remaining 125 acres. Unless those are apartment houses, that's a lot of houses on a 1/4 acre.
They are apartment houses.
Yeah, they would be.
That's too much.
Too much if they're apartment houses?
An apartment house, that's a little different, but it says they can be separate dwelling units.
So I think
At least that's the way I read it. And I looked at that and I said,
let me explain this a little more
Please do.
in more detail. Try to see if I can help you understand that. So, Rob, could you put up that? There's a map. It's the EV and EVD density analysis, I think is the name. Yeah. Okay, and I'm going to walk over here. I should have brought a pointer. Should I get a yardstick? So, the master plan kept talking about in a number of different areas. Eric, do you want to help me with this?
Sure.
You should explain this, and then I'll jump in with the.
What were you trying to communicate?
Just in general, just talk about why we did that.
So why we have the 4 base units?
Yeah.
So we wanted to give property owners flexibility. We hear it a lot about multi-generational households. We hear a lot about the cost of housing, and having, a duplex or a triplex is a great way to reduce your own personal housing costs. And we have a lot of buildings that actually meet these criteria already. So we also are trying to make everything that's existing conforming. And there's also a line that's drawn, as was mentioned earlier, between primary residence and commercial residence at the 4 unit. So if it's 4 units or less, you can insure it and mortgage it as a primary residence as a homeowner. If it's 5 owners or more, it is a commercial mortgage and a commercial insurance, regardless of whether or not you live there. So that's one of the reasons we drew the line between 4 and 5. And then there's also all of the other rules that have to be followed, which if somebody has a really small lot, like they have to have 1 parking space per unit, they have to meet all the setbacks, they have to meet the height requirements. So they have to do all of that, and if they can figure it out, then yes, they can have 4 units. But if you look at the individual lots, there's not going to be many lots where somebody could meet all of those requirements and have 4 units on a really small lot. It's going to be, but it is going to provide the flexibility for homeowners to do what they can with the lot that they have.
And as I was saying, the master plan keeps talking about wanting to focus housing in the village areas, not out in the rural areas.
Right.
Focus it where we have town infrastructure. We have roads, we have communications, 3-phase power, we've got water, and we've got sewer particularly. And so, how do you do that? How do you?
And,
Yeah, go ahead.
also from the master plan, one thing related was there's sort of the very traditional New England settlement pattern of a dense village surrounded by open space of one form or another, whether that's agricultural land, forest land, just large lots. That was a core thing we heard. But also a desire for business, a little more business than we have now. Additional restaurants, additional sort of service-oriented businesses, and a walkable space where people could live and then walk to those businesses. And so by adding some housing density to the core area is one of the ways to enable that to happen. If we add some more housing, maybe somebody will see an opportunity for a business of some sort, whether it's a restaurant or something downtown. So that was another piece that we're trying, of the master plan, we're trying to integrate in.
Yeah, like, you see what's happening down at the brewery and the new coffee shop. You actually got people walking around downtown, and it's really exciting to see how much activity there was there this summer. And we've been wanting that for decades. And it's there now. And now it's the wintertime, and they've got we need customers there to let them live, let them expand over the course of the next few months till the summertime happens again. And so having people downtown and in these village areas, which are all walkable, I live right there, and it's very easily to walk to the brewery or the coffee shop. They need that kind of foot traffic coming in there. And so if we have a little bit more housing density downtown, that will increase that. And maybe they'll find that there's enough competition for another restaurant of some kind down there, a bakery or whatever. So that's what this is all focused on. And this formula we came up with, the quarter 4 units for the first quarter acre. Dave, you got the first question. I want to wear your arm out there.
I think Celia has the first one.
Oh, okay. The formula is designed to concentrate density on small lots, not the big lots. And so you get a premium if you have a small lot under this new formula. If you have a large lot, and by the way, there are very few downtown. The biggest one is right here, 10.23 acres. It's off of Maple Street, right behind Jake's, essentially. And that lot, under the old ordinance, if you use, if you're allowed a one housing unit per quarter acre, you could have 40 units. Under this new formula, you can have 43. It's less than a 1% increase.
10%.
10%. So the premium is not for the big lots, it's for the small lots. It's for the guy that has a 1 acre lot and he would like to subdivide off a ½ acre of that and put up a 4 unit apartment building or a 6 unit. You're not going to get very big on something like that. As Eric said, you got setbacks, you got parking requirements. There's a 50-foot setback to the river or any other stream or any kind of wetland. So, and a lot of these lots are kind of wonky shaped. They don't just cut up into convenient little quarter acre sections. They may have ledge on them, you can't even build in that part. Anyway, let me take a question, Celia.
I just want to clarify that if somebody did have in that area a large lot, why can't they go in and say, let's see, I got a 20 acre lot, why can't I put in an apartment house?
Well, first, there are no 20 acre lots in these districts. That just doesn't exist. There's no 100 acre lots. I'll show you. There's this one. Scroll forward here. And down on South Main Street, there's this lot, which has about half of the 17 acres that's in the EV district. There's this one, which is 3.64. The biggest one down here is in below where the crates live on the hillside, is 6.85 acres. And there's one here behind Don Roberts of about 3 acres. And that's it. There aren't any other vacant lots that's begging for development.
What about off Lovejoy Brook Road?
That's in the Route 4 district.
But that would
We'll get
have
to
the
Route
same,
4, but this is
would
about,
that have the same amount of dwelling units?
they can actually have more in the,
Then you could get apartment buildings.
yes.
Yes.
And that's where we wanted to focus, that if there's a large apartment building is going to be built, it should be out in Route 4, not here. David?
I thought Celia had asked before, and I'll ask again. What is the build-out plan? In one of the small groups, we were told up to 1,000 units in EV1.
Well, so, let's talk about that.
Or EV.
Yeah, let's talk about EV. So, the sewer ends approximately right here at the top of, I think that's Pillsbury Street. Right? Pillsbury Street.
Just a little, yeah.
Yep. And then just somewhere right in here on the, on Shaker Hill Road. All of these lots out here are on their own septic system. You'll notice that they're widely separated in fairly large lots. If the town ever puts sewer out here, it will be because of, you know, the federal government's out of debt and they got plenty of money to hand around.
That isn't gonna happen.
It just isn't gonna happen. The per foot cost to install that sewer way out here is just not going to be cost effective. So you're basically gonna see, because of this ordinance change, hardly any change out here at all. You go to South Main, these lots that I mentioned, and what do you have here? You've got an owner with a home on that lot. A lot of these owners, not most of them, they're not interested in developing their lot. They got a nice big lot, they got their home there, they're very happy, got a view of the lake. I'm cool. That's not gonna change, stay that way forever. Somebody might sell a lot to a developer. And then he's limited to the number of housing units that we're talking about here. But as I said before, the new ordinance doesn't really give him much of a premium in terms of how many units he can install over what the old ordinance did. Now, could somebody take one of these houses that might just be a single-family home and add a couple of apartments to it? They can always do an ADU arrangement, put 2 ADUs onto their single-family. But they might say, well, I have a 1 acre lot here, I'd really like to have 6 apartments in here, and they could do that. And that's the kind of thing that's how you create increased density downtown without having a big development happen. It's little things happening. Now, how often is that going to happen? How quickly is that going to happen? And so when you do a build-out analysis, you've got to ask yourself, am I just knocking down all these houses and then saying, you know, what's the max I could, well, these are property owners. They're not going to be too happy about that. Some will occasionally, but, you know, this is something that's going to transpire over many years.
Can I follow up on that? I mean, I think much more likely than the small landowners that are currently there is the potential for big developers with deep pockets to buy up and consolidate quite a number of those lots so that they have a large enough lot to put in big, tall apartment buildings. Where does that fit?
Yeah, well, you should know that they can do that right now. They could buy up any number of these lots, you know, spend $500,000, $450,000, and so forth for these nice fine homes in South Main Street or anywhere around here, and tear them down and build something bigger, consolidate the lots, as you said. They can do that in the existing ordinance. And what's the premium this new ordinance gives you? 3 units. That's it.
What? 3 units.
3 units.
Per half acre.
No, what I'm saying is, let's say these lots were combined into a 20-acre lot. The existing ordinance would allow you to put 80 units on there, 1 unit per quarter acre. the new ordinance, the premium you get is 3 additional units.
Can you draw that out? Because I just don't see it.
Sure. Help me out here, Eric. So here's the street.
Do you want me to draw while you, I think the table is actually the.
You want to look at the table? That's not a great good one.
No. So as you increase the lot of your size, when you have a 1/4 acre, you get 4 units. Today, you get 1 that are existing. If you add another 1/4 acre, so you now have a 1/2 acre, you get 5. Under an existing one, you get 2. If you extend this all the way out to the 20-acre lot, you get 4 plus 1 for all of these 1/4 acres. That's 83. Under our existing one, you get 1 for every 1/4. That's 80. So the difference between the two is 3 units. The premium, again, is in these small lots where individual homeowners have the flexibility to put in 4 instead of 1. Currently, they could put in 3 if they used ADUs. But we're talking just full-size dwelling units. But you can have, if you have a single-family home, you can have 2 ADUs. So it's a little nuanced, but it's really going from 3 to 4. And removing the size limitations on those additional units. Somebody with a 1/2 acre can go up to 5, whereas today they can have, again, either 2 regular-sized units or a single-family home with 2 ADUs. And then, so it's these small lots that have the premium. The big lots, the more they consolidate, the bigger they make their lot, the smaller the increase as a percentage is.
So does that enhance the ability for townhouses with 5 units per?
Let me address that.
Is that what we want?
So let's take, scroll back. This lot here on Maple, if a lot was begging to be developed, developer walking by and saw it, that might be one to key on. It's Bill Warren's lot, I'm sure he doesn't mind me talking about it, but in any event.
Tim, that has wetlands on it.
Yeah, I know, that's what I want to bring up. So, on paper, he's allowed 40 units. There are 43 units under the new ordinance, 40 under the old ordinance. But here's the reality. Under the old ordinance, you can only have 1 principal building per lot, which means he's got to put all 40 of those units in 1 building. He's forced to build the very thing we'd rather not have, which is a large apartment building. Under the new ordinance, we want to remove the 1 principal building per lot requirement. So now, he's got the option of building something a little more attractive, which would be small clusters of townhomes or a series of condos. He could build a small cul-de-sac and put up a cluster of cottage courts, they call them. Any number of different arrangements that we would look and hope that the developers' creativity and their engineering and so forth would come to bear and build some interesting housing here rather than just what he's forced to do under the old ordinance.
What about spaghetti lots? That's what I'm concerned about when you have a frontage that's only 15 feet. It's really creating a narrow opening to a property. It's depending on where that property is on the street. If it's facing a street, you could, I think one of the most beautiful things about New England homes is they sit back from the street, they have some road frontage, they have some presence. If you start cutting that up into, 15-foot driveways, that go back to spaghetti lots that nobody can really do anything with, but it's a lot, or it's a house on a lot.
Well, keep in mind that all of the rural districts, which have, the house and the connector and the barn and so forth, the old New England style, none of that's changing. They've still got those large lots out there. We're talking about the village here. In the village, you have the remnants of some farms that were used to be here. I think it's this Relum Farm or something like that.
Sorry.
I'm just trying to find an example here, like lot 16. I can't remember, that's probably not, it looks like the house takes up most of it. Maybe this one here, 14. Now he is that's Monmouth's place up there, the painter. He's got a large lot in back, and he's got absolutely no interest in developing that land. I know, I've talked to him. But let's just say he changed his mind. He could put a 15-foot deeded section of land to the back of the lot and install a house of some sort back there. Or a small development for as far as that goes. It could be an apartment building. Yeah, okay, that's kind of what we're encouraging here. That's increasing density in the downtown where you have water and sewer. Yes.
Tim, are you talking about subdividing that lot that Monmouth, that he owns?
He'd have to subdivide that,
Right.
which means we got a site plan review and all that. Yes, sir.
Tim, I have a couple of the same questions I had last week.
Yep.
But,
Name?
my name is Dan Regan. I live on Lock Haven Road. Thank you. My concern is not, and I think you articulated very well, as did Eric, the large lot. My concern is that the developer comes in and says, hey, rather than have 10 acres and be able to go from 40 to 43, I'm going to divide those 10 acres into 1 acre lots. Every 1 acre lot, I'm going to be able to have 7 units. 7 times 10 is 70. So,
Well, let me explain why that is unlikely.
but
Again, we have to
possible,
go, we have to go to what's on the ground. I mean, should we use this lot, or do you want to use the one on South Main?
right? Before we go there, is it possible?
No,
Why not?
because of all of the restrictions that are on the ground on these lots in town. You just can't subdivide a piece of property like that. For instance, this one, as Sharon pointed out, there are wetlands down on the lower portion here. There's some undulating land between, but basically this is all upland up here. So right off the bat, there's parts of the land they can't even develop. Now, he's got to put a roadway in order to subdivide that, because there's only 100 and some odd foot of frontage here. So the roadway comes in, maybe it does a loop, and he starts to divide up his lots. For what? Single-family homes or clusters of, if it's single-family home, I can tell you that and also in this lot, it's down gradient from the elevation of the sewer. So he's gonna have to put a lift station somewhere down here to pump up to the street. Very expensive to do. So this guy, trying to do what you're saying, has got suddenly begins to have a lot of infrastructure costs to develop his property. The thing he can do is put up some really fine homes, $700,000-800,000 homes there, and recoup his costs. The easiest thing for him to do would be put up a series of condos or townhouses. And those, he would want to keep up close to the front of the land to, again, lower his infrastructure costs. So you can look at that scenario on any of these lots, and you always find there's something quirky about that thing. You can't just, it's not like a sheet of paper where you just cut it up. On paper, if it was a completely flat lot, yeah, you probably could do something like that, but you gotta take out the required right-of-ways for the roads.
So is it fair to say the truth is somewhere between 43 and 70?
No, it's 43.
It's not, I could subdivide my lot.
That is the max you will be able to get in a subdivision approval. You're gonna bring your application into this board. They're gonna tell you, show us a subdivision with 43 or less units.
I don't want a subdivision at the first time I come in. All I want to do is divide my lot into 10 one-acre lots.
That's a
Am I allowed to
subdivision.
do that?
No, that's
No?
a subdivision.
Yeah.
You gotta show us how you're gonna get access to these lots, how you're gonna get water and sewer there, it has to be engineered, you gotta show where the wetlands are, et cetera, before you can subdivide a lot like that.
Your easiest way, Dan, is you're gonna be able to take one off and put one new one, okay? And you say, okay, I'll come back next year and do another one, and the next year do another one. You can't do that, because if you do it once, twice, right?
It's either 2 or 3.
Twice in 5-year period. So that means in order to get 10 out of that and do them one at a time, which would be the easiest way to do it, it's gonna take you 15 years to do it.
Could I cut my 10-acre lot into
2 5s?
2.5-acre lots?
2.5 acre lots? Yeah, if you can show, if you can, well, you've got a frontage issue, so you're gonna have to, gonna have to put in a road, because you can't have shared driveway for more than 2 lots.
Go forward, Rob, to South Main Street.
Yeah,
Take a look at any of these. In fact, we have a developer who's given us a concept proposal for this lot. And he's already told us that anything back about here is just chock full of wetlands, there's nothing he can do with it. He still gets the 35 unit number, based on that portion of the lot. And then the back part, since it's an R1, he gets 0.25 per unit. So he could get more units, but there's only so much he can crowd in here. And he showed us a really, really sweet looking development with a cottage court with some nice little townhomes on either side, and big green space in the middle. That's what he wants to do with it. Existing ordinance, we'd have to tell him, no, you gotta put everything in one building. It just, he has no flexibility at all.
Could I ask a second question? Still here.
You're sure?
The build-out analysis was mentioned recently. We talked about this last week as well. With all of these changes, let's not start at the changes. As things currently exist, how many housing units could be built in these 3 districts? And then with all of these changes, if we maximized and the maximum number of houses were built, how many is that? And then if you want to look and consider the wetlands and everything else that can be built on, how many is that? So we're trying to look at it from a macro point of view, that our population is right now 4,400 people, and we did this, is it going to jump to 6,000 or is it going to jump to 4,600? So just I'm trying to get the scope.
Yeah, when I think about the population, knowing these districts, these 3 districts, we have about 1,200 people. A little more than half of them are in single-family homes. I'm going to say about 60%. The others are in apartments. So I frankly don't know how you do a build-out analysis unless you have to make some assumptions that this guy wants to sell his land, that this guy wants to sell his land, and so forth. If you just look at vacant lots, I don't think there are any. It's just not there. And so, what do I do? I could say, do I say each of these homes down in South Main that everybody wants to cut them up into as many apartments as they can?
So I think the regional planners suggest that build-out analysis are done quite a bit, and there's some assumptions that have to be used, of course. But I would respectfully request that the planning board look to put that together and present it to the folks in town somehow. We need to see what's the impact if this were to go forward.
Yeah, so Renee Thiel, I'm from the Upper Valley Lake Sunapee Regional Planning Commission, consultant with the HOP. So one thing I'll mention is that the City of Lebanon recently did a build-out analysis for the Mascoma Lake watershed. So, do you want me to?
Yeah, so you can address.
Okay. All right, I'll do this just in case. So the City of Lebanon recently did a Mascoma Lake watershed build-out analysis. I have the draft in front of me right now, but I believe it is finalized. And they looked at existing zoning at the time they were doing it, which was this last summer. And they actually only showed roughly a 7% build-out increase for Enfield based on previous population growth and projections for the next few years, 50 years plus. So the population in Enfield has actually gone down since 2000. So you were at 4618, in 2020 you were at 4465. So taking all that into consideration, and then this is another consultant who did it for City of Lebanon. So I mean, I think there's, to your point, there's more information that can be gathered and looked at here. And some really good data in here as well.
So it sounds like that's a perfect baseline, Renee?
Yes.
Because that's what the current,
and
then we now did it with these.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, so there could be some future look at for that too. I will say, you know, at current, it's not jarring as far as what the build out is. So, you know, they're again given that extra 3 per the current lot size. I don't think that it would increase a ton, but there is some dimensional control with the potential to subdivide, right? And some land is subdivided. The other thing was that only 33%, see if I get that right, out of the total area in Enfield, again, this is current, this last year, the percent buildable area was only 33%. So Enfield has a lot of conserved land, you have a lot of steep slopes, you have a lot of land that's automatically taken out of consideration. And so when they were looking at this, they determined that only 33% within the, you know, watershed they're looking at is buildable.
Is that the whole town you're
Is that the
talking
whole
about?
town or the
Yes.
central district?
Out of the whole town. This is the out of the build out analysis.
Is that including the R3 and 1 and 5?
Yes,
With current zoning.
with current zoning, correct. So there is more information to look at, you know, definitely, and that can be a resource. So just wanted to share that
Thank you, Tim.
as a piece.
Can we see this on the website, Lebanon?
I will see if it's posted. Let me double check. I'll see if they posted it.
Just a second, Sharon.
So just one comment on thinking about the build out. Currently, every lot can effectively have 3 units because of the 2 ADUs. Effectively, it goes to 4 units. So on a lot by lot basis, it's a 33% increase in the total global percentage if there were no changes to the number of lots. And in fact, it's less than that because the big lots get a smaller percentage. So it's, you know, we have to look at it, but it's below, that would be the absolute ceiling, would be going from 3 to 4 per lot.
Eric,
Yes.
so in our, excuse me, Sharon, okay. I'm not sure I'm understanding what you're saying of 3 to 4. Let me explain. On our 3/4 acre lot, now we can have 3 total units. But with this, under this scenario, my thought was we could have 6. So that's 100% increase.
She's right. But she would go, but they have a 3/4, they would go 3, 4, 5. So it'd be a 40, yeah, so it would be different, but effectively per lot goes from 3. Most lots, the small lots, that is gonna trigger most of it, is gonna be a 33% increase from 3 to 4. But yes, you're correct. Other lots, and a big lot, like the 10-acre lot's gonna be less than 10%. But so we can think about it that way as far as the different lot sizes go, because yes, you're correct.
So, see, that's where I'm confused. If I can have 6, So that's a 100% increase.
Yep.
I can have 4 for the first quarter acre, right?
Yep.
And then I have 2 other quarter acres, okay, so I have 2 other quarter acres. That makes 6.
Yes, you're correct. You're correct.
So why wouldn't that be the same for anybody else, as far as what they can have now? So are you saying that everybody now can have 3?
Yes.
If you have a
Everybody
single-family
today
home.
can have a
Okay.
single-family home and 2 ADUs.
So that's where you're looking at a smaller lot size is gonna have less, is gonna have less of an increase. A bigger lot size is gonna have a larger.
There's gonna be, no,
No.
no.
If I can have 100%,
And if in the 10-acre lot that borders you can only have a 9%.
can,
Because they can only add 3 units. They can have 40 now, it'll go to 43. So the only increase that 10-acre lot has is 3 units.
okay,
Which is-
let's take my neighbor who probably has a half an acre.
Right,
I'm gonna take a guess.
right, so they can go
Sure.
from 3 to 5.
Right.
So, right, so it does depend on the size of your
The
lot.
smaller
The smaller the lot, the more,
the higher percentage.
exactly,
They can increase. Yeah.
Okay.
right.
Can I ask another question? Okay, I'm gonna switch
Sure.
things around a little bit. So you want all of these, the focus to be on areas of town where they can connect to water and sewer. I think water, I think this is premature, because the biggest concern I have about Enfield is water. And I think we've clarified for so long, in the past 6 months, people have said, we have plenty of water. I think what we determined with Laramie Farms, that we can only reasonably supply, in order to preserve some water, reasonably supply half of their 300 units, or 150 of their 308 units. So therefore, and that solution for them, find your own water on your own land.
Yep.
Or help us with McConnell Well, which is contaminated. And actually, I mean, so it's not, it solves Laramie Farms' problem. And you're assuming that all of these places that are connected to water and sewer, okay, situation solved, they already have water. But if there's going to be increased density, whether it's at 33% or whether it's at 100%, that's the thing that you have, I would like to see and task you with, or task somebody in this town with, is to figure out, all right, if we do a build out, how much more water do we need? How do we have it? How much of it do we have? Because you can't be opening the gates for passing zoning ordinances, having people line up because, okay, I bought a piece of property, this is what I can do with it, and then you're gonna tell them they don't have water, or you're gonna give them water that is gonna, what's the word? That's going to decrease the water that the rest of us are using? That situation, that answer needs to be had before we go through this. I'm adamant about that. So try to explain that for me, please.
So if I just get a couple clarifications from the select board. So the select board is taking on the issue of doing that work. And just a clarification, I understand where you got the 150 number. That was not the ceiling of the amount of water we have. That was the amount of water that was willing to be allocated to that project. So that was not, I just want to be clear. Because Sharon is giving a number that was correct for what was told to Laramie Farms. But that is not the ceiling. And the select board is taking, as the managers of the water system, are taking on that work and having that analysis done. Based on existing stuff, it would take decades for us through small projects to exceed our existing water, because we're only adding 1, maybe 2 units a year currently. Even if you make that substantially faster, it would still be a very long time before we ran out of our existing water. But to Sharon's point, she is correct. Water does place the limit on the total build out that's possible, as does sewer. Currently, we can triple our sewer capacity without reaching our current agreement with Lebanon. But if we would ever get there, we would have to renegotiate with Lebanon on that. But again, it's very far away before we would ever reach that capacity. Water, we're closer to, we need a better understanding. The select board is taking that on.
How are you doing that?
We've tasked the town manager and the Department of Public Works director to put together, and our consultant is doing some of that work as part of the Laramie Farms.
Who's your consultant?
Horizon Engineering?
Horizon.
Yeah, Horizon Engineering, it's part of their scope is to
Is
analyze water.
it's part of the what?
Part of their scope of work.
I have a comment.
It's part of the work that they have to do. We've hired them to do that work.
And who's paying for that?
Laramie Farms is paying for the Horizon Engineering analysis as part of their project.
Can we let a couple of people who are on Teams, Adam, can you tell us who you are and?
Hi, everybody. Adam Grounds. I'm a property owner on in Main Street. And a few, not so much questions, just things I wanted to offer up in my perspective. I believe the density calculations that have been created with the 4 for the first quarter acre and 1 after, from my perspective, really incentivizes village scale development, which is I think more of what you want rather than large apartment buildings that would be required today. And so I applaud the effort at trying to come up with creative ways to allow gentle density to be added over time at the same scale that exists today as a part of that ecosystem. And one of the other things I was thinking through was with the road frontage that's required on the lots. And I was concerned about buildable lots, and that sounds really narrow. But one thing I'm trying to keep in mind is you also, when you're building, have setback requirements. So there's frontage that you need to access your lot, but once you're actually building something on the lot, there's 15 feet on either side that you have to build. So you end up with a lot that's, let's say you're building a 25-foot wide house, which is even a fairly narrow home. You still end up with a 55-foot wide lot, which is not that much smaller than the, I believe, 75-foot frontage that's required today under current zoning. So I think it encourages some gentle density in a way that fits within the village scale. And I applaud the creativity and coming up with the calculations to accommodate that.
Thank you, Adam. Dr. Theis, I think you had a comment?
Yes, I would like to point out that the essential element for all of this increased density is water. And if you look at the EVN DW 404.05, the regulations there claim that you can only use the water that is not coming from the most productive well to calculate the water that is necessary to accomplish the average minimum daily requirement or the excessive or the maximum daily requirement. Now, in 1992, the town hired Proven Engineering and the Atlantic Geoscience Corporation to do a study on their water here in Enfield. And in that project, which cost the town $485,000, they pointed out that a well that produced 50 gallons a minute could support 200 homes. Now, you can't count the McConnell well, even if you clean it up, because that's the highest producing well, and that regulation requires that that well not be included. Right now, in the 3 wells you've got a total amount of water of 145 gallons a minute. That puts you close to 45 gallons a minute or more short of supplying the water that's necessary in order to comply with the DW requirements the state has. Every time you add a house, or apartment, you're going to add more water usage. And you're asking these people in town to vote on these planning ordinances in March when you don't even know
the quantity of water that is available. Even cleaning up the McConnell well isn't going to help, because you've got to find another well that can be added to the present 3 wells that are producing 145 gallons a minute in order to provide the water that the state requires for those particular increased densities to accommodate. You're getting the cart before the horse. If you don't calculate the absolute essential element that every development has to have, that is water, you're going to run these people into a position where they have limited amounts of water, and consequently, many of these places may be overdeveloped. And you can't ask the people to vote on these things until you know for sure that you've got the essential infrastructure to supply these homes and these people with water. That's something that the select board is not considering either.
Dr. Theis, I take your point that water is a limiting factor. And for all but 1 and 2 unit living quarters or development, it has to go to site plan review before the planning board. When the planning board gets an application for an apartment building, whether it's 5 units or 100 units, we talk to DPW and we say to them, is there enough water for this development without cutting off any future development? And if the answer is no, then the development does not happen at that time until the water supply is increased. So there is a built-in safeguard that would not allow a development to happen unless the infrastructure of water is available.
Is that in the ordinance?
Yes.
Yes.
And you're seeing,
That's in our site plan ordinance.
you're seeing that play out exactly with the Laramie Farms project. The issue was raised, do you have enough water for this project? And as you know, no one really knows, so they're doing a study, and they're gonna answer that question. That same question gets asked if each of these developments come forward.
The other thing, Tim, is there's 2 other wells that haven't come online yet.
Well, but we don't wanna get into the
Right, well,
mechanics.
that's what I mean.
Engineers are studying that.
Right.
But the ordinance is providing the checks that are required. That's the important.
Right, exactly.
Okay, thank
Jean,
you.
you have not had a chance yet to speak.
Jean Patton, Livingston Lodge Road. So, I get it. I know water is like a hot topic and a button here, but this meeting I didn't think was about water. We are here to meet, to talk about rewriting the zoning things.
Right.
Water is certainly important, and I get it from all of you about that. I'm with you, but this meeting is a public hearing about rewriting of the zoning, not water.
I agree, and the zoning is a long-term document, and there are safeguards that take into account infrastructure that is needed to support any development. And, you know, water is part of it. If we were to talk about subdivisions, we would need to start talking about roads.
That's not a part of this.
It's not part of it. Seeley and then Gwen.
But did you say that we are paying for the study done, this water study being
No.
done? No, well, who's paying for it?
So as part of the Laramie Farms site plan review, they have to demonstrate water. The town has hired an independent engineering firm, Horizons Engineering, to evaluate all of that work. So there's an independent review. And then the way the site plan review works is that the town hires them, they work for the town, but they pay the bill.
Don't you think that's a conflict of interest?
No, actually,
Not
it
at
isn't,
all.
Sealy, it's the law. If they have to pay for it, it's our
Oh, I
study.
understand, now I know what
It's
you're
our
talking
study, it's not Laramie Farms'
about. But it was
study.
why are we talking about $485,000?
That was.
That was
no, I don't
Dr.
know what-
Seitz.
I honestly
That was
don't-
Dr. Thiel from the 1980s.
Yeah, that's not
It's
something
not a
happening today.
current amount.
No.
No, that was before I
We have
even,
not taken out bonds or anything?
No,
No.
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 That was back in 1980, the
Okay,
study he's talking about.
Okay, I'm glad.
I know, Sealy.
I was boiling.
I was going to ask,
Okay,
I was going the same place you were.
okay, Gwen?
Gwen Dessert, can one of you guys just confirm, I believe this is true, but based on page 17, I'm going back to the boundaries and districts, under section F, where it talks about lot sizes being divided by 2 different districts. So lot number 48, which is in the rural 1 district,
Yeah.
has part of its property in the EV district
Yeah.
with road frontage. My guess is based on the language where, in section F on page 17, where it says, the entirety of the property may be used for any use allowed in the zoning district, providing that the zoning district is more restrictive. So my understanding is the EV district zoning is not more restrictive than the R1 currently.
Right.
So that's part of Laramie Farms property. They can't use that less restrictive EV zoning to continue to the rest of the property. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay. Sorry, that was very
Yeah.
long-winded, sorry.
Yeah.
And is that the same, I know it's different district, on their other piece of property between the EV4 and the R1? Is the EV4 less restrictive than the R1?
You're talking about,
That road frontage?
right, there's the water tank.
Yeah, so that's lot 47.
Yeah, same thing.
Same thing, so they wouldn't be able to extend the less restrictive, or the less restrictive. Okay.
No.
Steve Patton, did you have a question or a comment?
Steve Patton, Livingston Lodge Road. So I guess I wonder why the area up Livingston Lodge, Shaker Hill, and also Anderson Hill is being put in this district because they have no sewer.
Yeah, I can answer that. You got more to your question?
I think I have a statement. The state has lot loading regulations, and you guys would follow those to tell these people they can't put multiple buildings in because their lots aren't big enough. Is that correct?
Yeah, what would happen there, you're talking about all these lots out here with their own septic systems. If somebody wanted to divide one of these, subdivide it, how small of a lot could they subdivide it to? Well, under this new scheme, that's exactly what they would do. You would look at the state requirements for the minimum required septic system, lot size, et cetera, based on the soils and, all that stuff that goes into that calculation. And it may come up and say, in that particular area, because of those soils, et cetera, you need to have a lot size of 0.75 acres, or 1.5 acres, or whatever it might be. And that's your minimum lot size. Did I get that right?
Yeah. But you're gonna put them in this
Okay, now the reason why,
anyway.
when this is a bit arbitrary out here, I grant you. And this area isn't quite like these other areas with town water and sewer, but when we said, all right, when we wanted the village to be defined by when you're driving down one of the approach roads, when do you feel like you've entered the village? And our board's answer was Yeah, about when you get here. You're coming down Shaker Hill Road, you get to Westcott.
Yeah, it's Westcott.
Yeah.
And, you know, you start to see housing densities a little more concentrated. Can people walk to bicycle downtown? You know, yeah. And that's why we said, yeah, that's, and they also have town water. Now, I realize there are a few lots here that don't, but we wanted to use Westcott Road as a convenient boundary. So arguably, we could have left some of these lots out, but it just felt like they ought to be part of the village. Down here along the shoreline, we purposely excluded all the lots that have water frontage because there's discussion in the future that we may want to have a shoreline development ordinance, and that would incorporate these lots, which would have a very different kinds of considerations about what rules we want to impose than we do for these areas. And you'll notice down here, the EV stops just shy of the trestle and goes up towards, what's the name of that road?
Sergeant?
Sergeant Street.
Sergeant Street, yeah.
But doesn't include any of that down, again, that's shoreline property. It's currently in the R1 district.
Just a clarification, so everything in the EV district has water and or sewer?
Except for
Along the
a couple of lots right in here.
And there's a couple on Livingston Lodge.
Yeah, and there may be a couple along Livingston Lodge, although some of these have actually got pipes that run across the field from the road into the back of the lot.
I live on Anderson Hill and I have a well, Bill Finger, Anderson Hill.
Right. Yeah.
So you're further out?
No.
Up top, up at the EV,
Oh,
the
yeah,
other
yeah,
EV.
and Anderson Hill, right. Thank you for bringing that up too. It just didn't seem like, we would leave that as a little island of R1 up there, and it just seems like, you know, just toss that into EV2. I mean, you got individual lots with septic systems, very happy owners up there. I don't think they want to, you know, do anything. Because they have septic systems, very limited to what they could do. Also, the soils up there aren't all that great for septic systems.
Yeah. Really good soils.
Yeah, so that has natural protections to it, if you will. And you've got lots out here that are just wicked wet. Scroll forward.
That's a good description.
Scroll forward, Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, one more. I don't know, go up the end.
Up one more.
Right there.
That's the
Right
one.
The septic end's about right here, and that's a really attractive lot to develop on. Merle Ford owns that, and over his dead body are you subdividing that thing, you know, and so forth. And these are all wet. You can't do anything. You've got no access to this lot. This is on a steep hillside, wooded ledge. So
Also asked, Dan Regan also asked you last week. Of the three districts, these changes, I can get my arms around in some of the districts more than others. I can force around before they get along. And I had asked if it would be possible to, rather than have this as one warrant article, have it as three separate warrant articles. And you didn't think that was possible, I don't know if you've given that any more thought. I also fear that it's less likely to pass if it goes all three together than if it's three separate. And that's just my opinion. And I could be completely wrong, but I wonder if you talked at all more about that.
We have not really addressed it, so I'm gonna give you the same answer that I gave you when we talked last week, which is because we are changing boundary lines, if EV passes and EVD doesn't pass, where do we draw a boundary line? And it's kind of gotta go as a package. Yeah, I'm sure we will discuss it further. But that's kind of the way we've always looked at it, because we are changing boundaries between districts.
Final comment, thank you to the planning board. You guys have done incredible work. Really put a lot of thought into this, whether we all end up agreeing with it or disagreeing with it. You cannot say anything other than thank you for all your work. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Tim, where do you want, oh,
One more.
Gwen?
Are we ending on EV tonight, or are we gonna go to the other districts, the EVD? I just didn't know if I should make any comments about the other ones or hold up.
Yeah, I think we're gonna try to do the whole thing tonight, because we have to do the whole thing, because it's a public hearing on what we're gonna be putting on the ballot in March. So, yes, that's the answer to your question. And it's gonna be a long meeting.
So the EVD is a growth from what used to be called the Community Business District. It recognized, a little louder, okay. It recognized that there's a certain kind of commercial activity downtown that you want to encourage, and there's a certain kind of commercial activity you don't. So the stuff you don't want to encourage is out on Route 4. We need another car wash, and we ought to put it right down. Or a used car lot, we ought to put it right down. No. So that's why in the land use table, you see a difference in what's allowed and by either allowed or allowed by special exception here versus Route 4. So the kinds of commercial development we want to see here are the small businesses like the coffee shop, the brewery, and restaurants, and, all those kind of things you can walk to. We know parking's an issue. The more people we have walking to these businesses, the better everyone is. Now, there are a couple of vacant lots here. There's some owned by the town, the old Shed Street property. And the zoning ordinance really doesn't change what could have been done there from the old ordinance. Actually, this was a separate little district that was created for just that Shed Street. So the town's always wanted to encourage someone to buy that and put up some sort of housing there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot here on the rail trail that the ZBA just dealt with a few months ago, and I'm sure the developer will come back with a different plan that meets the setbacks to the river. There's the Union Street Fire Station, which I think there's some activity, interest in that, purchasing that. And other than that, there aren't any vacant lots. So what you're talking about, the kind of development would be here would be maybe a large old Victorian being cut up into apartments, or ADUs being added where you might have a single family home. There are not many of those. Well, right there's one, right across from the high school, or the middle school, elementary school. Yeah, someone could do a couple ADUs there. Questions?
I just want to make a statement. I want to thank you, Tim, for
your name,
a really
please.
good presentation. David L. Stewart, George Hill.
Thank you.
Good presentation. Made it pretty clear. However, and I appreciate all the work you've put into it. However, I concur. I have to agree with Sharon. I have concerns about the water, and I know this isn't about water, but this is going to increase the need for water, and it seems we've already had restrictions over this summer. And it's not gonna get any better, I can't imagine. And I have to agree with Dr. Tice. I think this needs, you need to do some studies and find some more water for this town. I think adding what I'm seeing there, the amount of units being added on, I don't think is sustainable right now. And we're talking long-term, so I would suggest tabling this proposal for a couple of years until we get a study and find out really what we can sustain. I think right now there's room for growth, and we could probably sustain that, we can probably handle it. But when it looks like the increase to me is just not a good plan. And I know what you say, Tim, about people aren't going to sell, you know, they're there. Well, people get older and things change, and we have an older population here, and property is going to flip, and other people are going to do different things with it. So I just urge caution. I don't see what the rush is. That's all I got to say.
I think we'll have our personal opinions on how to respond to that. For me, I look at all the reasons why we want to increase the number of housing units in town, why any community would in this area. You know, the kids can't afford to buy homes, and people can't retire into smaller homes because they're just not available. And so that issue is not going to go away until we have more housing. That's the only way to solve that issue. And if we started this process in 2019?
18, I think.
18. There was a high housing crisis was predicted then. It's gotten worse and worse and worse. And how much has been built with the existing ordinance? In this area, you could count on one hand the number of new housing units have been put in here. And so I feel we owe it to the community, to our descendants, to set this ordinance up so that these kind of things can happen, and that we give flexibility to developers to be able to create some innovative, creative housing situations. So that's why I'm anxious about moving this thing forward. I see it as a separate track from the water, which no one, I don't think, is any more adamant about that than me and Dr. Tice. And I am perfectly satisfied now the town has got the message, and they're investigating it, and they will have answers to us shortly.
Yeah, I will add to that and repeat what I said earlier. There are guardrails built into our site plan review that says if you can't supply water, the development does not happen, period. So there is really no reason not to do this, to set up the framework. And should the town develop additional water supply, people can go forward and this infill development can happen over many years. If we find out, or if the consultant finds out that, okay, we only have what we have now, then people cannot connect onto the water system. And the type of infill development that we think is desirable, it doesn't happen until we get the water. So it's, you know, it's planning for more than just the next couple of years. It's setting up a framework that we hope will last for 10 or 15 or maybe even more years in terms of how the town develops in this central area, in these 3 new districts that we envision. Yeah, I hear where you're coming from.
I believe I'll believe there's guardrails when I see the Laramie project scale back, because right now it doesn't sound like there's enough water for that whole project.
Well, I mean, right now, you're correct. And right now, I assume Laramie is waiting for the results of the water study before they file their final application. Right now, we've completed the design review phase, and they've got more design work to do. They've got to figure out their water situation, and once they do, then they will file their final application. And part of that is going to be a proof from an engineering company that we have hired, they have paid for, that the town has the capacity or can develop the capacity for their 300 odd units without limiting further development. And that's enough on water. Dr. Buffet.
Shifting a little bit here, I agree with those people that are saying that we probably should pause this for a while because we're getting ahead of ourselves. I came here because it was affordable. The projects so far are unabashedly saying that they're high-end and not designed for workforce or affordable housing, which is what this region needs. And we need to be a part of that. I don't know that it needs to be with the level of increased density and in building that we're talking about with this, and I think it needs some further consideration for that. I've been accused by a member of your committee of being a NIMBY, not in my backyard, and I would just say, not in Enfield's backyard, nor our front yards, nor our side yards right now. Let's go take pause and think about this some more before we go ahead.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Anyone else?
EV4?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Roll forward. This is the western section of EV4. Town of Canaan and 4. We've simplified this complex zoning requirements for the business developments here, largely based on Rob's experience with people coming in, wanting to do something, walks through the regulations and says, nah, it's not going to work for me. And so we probably lost some opportunities for business development out here because of the complexity of the old ordinance. So we did away with that. We kept a couple of features in there, like tree screens between commercial and residential properties. Increased the housing density limitations a little bit. Let's see, what else did we do here that's changed?
We got rid of all the form-based design.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
Yeah.
A lot of that's wet, though.
Yeah, well, the whole floodplain right here, right? And you really can't do anything until that issue gets resolved, which would probably mean cutting openings in the rail trail causeway here, which is essentially a big dam.
Right.
So yeah, wet here. But it's set up now so that if someone's got a great idea for a small business, they're going to find a lot less friction in getting that built. And then there's a small section on the, if you scroll forward, here on the other end of the CB and EV district. And the reason we set this up is because it's almost all commercial now. There's whatever's going on in the old Enfield garage.
Yeah.
There's a new car wash, used to be Brownie, new car wash, self-storage facility. We got the roller rink, lots of new activities there. And there's interest in this lot for development, probably commercial. And so it just kind of made sense to
had that as part of the Route 4 section. There's already the kinds of, again, commercial development here that you really don't want to have downtown. Yeah.
Okay, we've gone through all three districts.
Is there wording changes for that for EV4 that you want to present?
Say again?
Sorry, Dave, I beg it. Is there wording changes for EV4 that you want to present?
Wording changes?
Yeah.
I don't think anything significant, is there, Tim?
Well, let me get it up. Route 4. So, well, we've carried almost nothing from the old Route 4, except some stuff on signs. A bit on special aquifer protection because our wells are located in that wetland area. So you can't build anything within 400 feet of the wellheads. And we retained a section that you can't have any more than 70% of your property as impervious surfaces. And again, that's to discourage large parking lots where the water's not perking down into the ground, getting back into the aquifer.
I have a question. When you were having your last meeting, and that was the meeting that you guys were working so hard to go through all of this, I think you were here till 10:30 at night, and I left at you were still going at 10:30 when I left.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to ask then. It seems that in the commercial business district, you were talking about, were you talking about taking out, there's a lot of language around sidewalks. Were you taking that out?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't understand, because in the master plan, the reason the sidewalks were in was there was a whole lot of language in the master plan about walkable spaces.
Yeah. The reason for that, Rob, could you put the map back up? So in this section here, if Laramie Farms goes forward, a good portion of that will have a sidewalk that doesn't currently have one. Let's go to the western section. I think you got to scroll back. Right. So all along Route 4, there is not a single stretch of sidewalk.
Right.
And so the requirements would be for a business that got established along Route 4, they got to put in some sidewalk. Well, you'd have this 100-foot section of sidewalk that goes nowhere. And it may be decades before the other piece gets built, and that piece gets built, that kind of thing. You do have the rail trail, access via McConnell Road. None of that's changing, of course, but it was just an onerous requirement that wasn't really addressing the situation. And so we feel like if the town wants to address that sidewalk issue, they need to do that via the public investment. Could be the TIF district funds, could be a grant, any number of things. To bring in some level of sidewalk infrastructure. And at that point, we feel like we've got something to build on, then we could add that back into the ordinance. Did I get that right?
You did, and the other thing is that whole long section of Route 4 is basically a vehicular corridor. It's a strip development, as it were. And what I think we're looking for in the master plan was a nice, walkable, relatively compact downtown area that would maintain sidewalks. So I think Tim is correct in saying that sidewalks on that Route 4 corridor, you'd have 200 feet of sidewalk and it's going nowhere, and it's just really difficult to get from point A to point B unless you happen to be in a car. Gwen?
One dessert, on page 40, line 808, for the purpose and intent, it says supported by municipal water and sewer infrastructure. The whole section is not supported. So I think it should be reworded to reflect that. Say majority maybe, but as far as I know, my house is the last one that has town water. I don't have sewer. I don't know where the sewer ends coming up on the western side, so just to reflect that, because it implies that the whole area is supported.
Yeah.
So just a little rewording on that. I don't
Yeah.
know the other areas on the east side of Route 4 if sewer water goes that full way.
Yeah, I think when we had our discussions on this, we kind of focused on the east part of the Route 4 corridor and didn't really put a lot of detail work into the part where you are. But yeah, that's a very good comment that we will take into account.
The other thing on page, I lost my pages, 42, section D, where it talks about the commercial building footprint location, or limitation, sorry. I feel that's put in there to kind of minimize size and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I would encourage you to not limit it to just commercial, have it for any building, and not have it just for the footprint, have the whole square footage. So instead of, I know it does talk about if there's residential dwellings, that is included in that square footage, but have it say something like, building limitation, the maximum square footage permitted shall be 40,000 square feet, and that's it. So that would encompass the footprint itself, and it doesn't limit it just to commercial. If someone wants to build an apartment building, a 40,000 square foot base is huge, and if they can go up 40 feet, that's going to be one ginormous building. So if the total square footage could be 40,000 square feet. And not limit it just to commercial, have it just whatever building is built.
Okay. We can think about that. Sure.
That's the EV4.
That's EV4.
What's currently the CB district.
Thing is, you're not likely to have an apartment building with a 40,000 square foot footprint. Because that's almost an acre.
Which makes it fine to set that as the max.
Right, that's the max. So-
Right, but if you had
Right,
a
they can build a
total
25.
I'm thinking of Laramie Farms. So
Right.
one of those apartment buildings, the footprint is a little over 15,000 square feet.
Right.
So 3 floors
Yeah.
is over the 40,000 maximum. So that's
Okay,
what
I see
I'm
where you're
thinking
going.
of is,
It's footprint.
right, and I'm asking to eliminate the footprint, the total square footage. Because if you have one building down by Enfield House of Pizza that's an acre large, that's ginormous. So if your footprint is a maximum, but if you allow them to be smaller and go up, the total square footage. I may not be asking it right or something, but.
No, I understand what you're saying. I think that's something we'll talk about. Any more questions, comments? Somebody
Can I
want to
make
make
a
a
motion to
motion to
close
close
the
the
public
public hearing? I heard a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Public hearing is closed at 8:59. I'd like to thank everybody for coming and for your comments. You're welcome to stay and listen to the board discuss them. And we will have a revised draft when? Do we have a projected date on that? That we hit a target anyhow?
9th of January.
9th of January at the latest will be our final revision.
Final public hearing.
And
Posting.
posting. Final hearing,
Posted.
final hearing on the 19th, I think.
I'm here for it.
That might be 21st, okay.
Yeah, first of the, January 1st is a Thursday, so.
Okay. Wait, oh yeah, okay, yeah, though, he's on the 26th.
Yeah.
You guys want to take a quick break, or you want to?
Let's take a
Let's take a 5-minute break. I think we just need
Getting
to.
old, I really need to stand up.
You've been saying that a lot lately, Dan.
I get 5 more minutes.
So what? On the board? Yeah, I know that. We're gonna miss you.
Actually, I'll see you in 2 hours.
Where's Tim?
Right there. He's a bear, he bites you.
I was just looking for things to be in their correct places. That's okay.
And then say, you know, I've called and I know these people who can do it.
They lose 18 units.
Yeah.
Because they have to do an acre
Oh,
permit
right,
at that
right,
point.
right.
They lose 18 units.
Having it be that sudden, that
Right.
suddenly, all that information, you know.
The thing is, it's gotta be a lot cheaper to run a pipe,
Software, that everything.
to hook into the sewer from those 6 units.
It's gotta
Than
be
it is to put in
a
a septic
septic.
system.
I would think so.
Planned on grandchildren.
I would think so.
The 6 units
They're
that
not
they're gonna, that
producing.
Laramie's looking to put on Maple Street.
The ladies
The sewer up
are
there,
trying
unfortunately,
My
Okay.
kids
too
are
shallow.
open doors.
And none of them have
And
kids?
Maple Street in that area starts to
That's
pitch
just surprising to your
downhill
core,
as you get towards.
Yeah, that's the surprising
Right.
part, right? None.
And so the only way to put that,
My
extend
grandmother,
that sewer up there is you
one of
have
the
to have a lift
funniest things she
station.
ever said.
I'm saying they hook into their own.
She was in her
sewer
80s and just.
on their
at
own
that point,
property.
Well, they'd have to pump it up.
And there were a number of her grandchildren who had.
Well, no, because it's gonna
I
be
don't
going
remember
downhill
exactly
in
what it
some
was.
It's on the other side of the
But
road.
somebody made a
Elevation
comment
of the
about
apartment buildings are,
great
yeah.
grandchildren.
Well, yeah, but
You wouldn't have to pump it up that
She made
far.
some
the
comment
apartment
about
buildings
how
are going down.
We had all figured
to
out
hook
how to
into
not
Maple
make that
Street.
happen.
Well, let's move on with the board.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll talk
All,
about it.
like, there's a group of us that were in our 20s at the time, we all had parties.
Okay, we are reconvening at, roughly 9:08.
Yeah.
So, where should we start?
Well, we can fix all the stuff that was
I mean,
errors.
there's little stuff that,
Right, we can
is
fix.
basically, you know, wrong references or
Yeah.
cross-references.
Right.
But conceptually, what do we have to deal with?
Well, I would suggest that tonight, we don't worry about the little stuff, that if there are any major changes we want to make, that the board talk about those.
Yeah,
And we then charge a well-defined three-person committee to get together over the next 3 weeks and make the wording changes that we decide we want to do tonight. And bring those back to the board on a special work session on the 7th of January. And that's the point where we would want to have this thing in the can and a final version done.
yeah,
Because we have to post it 2 days later on the 9th.
right.
So that's my suggestion.
Anybody have any comments or objections to Tim's suggestion on how to proceed?
Not I.
Okay. Do we have any major areas that we want to tinker with at this point?
I would like to propose 2. I'm sorry, but yeah. Rob, can you, go to this one. All right, so what I did here is I was looking at this western end of the EV district, and as you know, we have 16 resident housing unit per acre stipulation for the Route 4 district. And while that makes a lot of sense on the eastern end, I'm questioning about here. And because this 5.5 acre lot times 16 would enable 88 units here.
And so I'm just a little uncomfortable with that, thinking, you know, this is the major entry into the town. Is that really something we want to do? And what I was suggesting is that maybe we come up, we change the wording to the housing density, not the commercial. It really doesn't change any of the commercial issues, but the housing density is the same as the EV. So that's, if you have a stomach for that, then the board would just direct this committee to make the wording happen. If not, then we'll move on.
How buildable is that lot? Isn't it kind of slow, steeply?
It is, but you could put an 88-unit apartment building on it.
It's flat enough to do
Land for
that. Yeah.
What you really want to encourage is smaller groups of condos or something, or even single-family homes.
They have significant infrastructure costs if somebody were to build that lot, because.
You have to go up, yeah.
You gotta pump up the sewer, can't really go down Oak Grove. I mean, there are limitations there.
Yeah.
Maybe they couldn't get to build that many units, but it did, that one caused me pause.
What's your other one?
Could you just run through it again?
Okay. Because the Route 4 district says you can have 16 units per acre, which is more than the 7 that we normally have in EV. You take 5.5 times 60, you get 88
Yeah,
equal
okay.
units.
All right.
And otherwise, if this was an EV, it would be 23.
That seems more reasonable.
So then do we split EV4 into 2 districts, one east and one west, with 2 different density limits?
Well, I would suggest you, if you want to do that, you don't want to.
I'm just raising the question.
I think the easier way to do it would be just in that density to say, east of EVD, it's this, west of EVD, it's that.
Yeah.
Same thing, yeah.
But then you don't have to split the district.
Okay.
You don't split the district.
But why even set that criteria? I mean, if the builder can come in and make it happen, let them make it happen, using the same criteria as you have for EV4 West, East rather.
So you're okay if they could do 88 units?
If he can do it, he or she can do it, more power to him.
No, I like your idea that it's an entry into the village and something more, less massive would look better. So EV4 would allow what?
16 per acre.
I hope I did math.
Yeah, you close enough.
So that would be 88 units?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
If you're worried about what it looks like, Linda, coming in, again, that all has to come before us anyways. And we can make those limitations on it.
No, you can't. No, you can't, because you can't do it based on looks.
Right, okay.
Looks is too subjective.
Building height.
Building height you can do.
It wouldn't be a tower, you know.
Right.
No.
But, and it could be groups of, 4 groups of 22 each or something.
Right.
Or 20 each.
And they might find it, they could probably find it cheaper to actually run it down Oak Grove, the sewer, than it would be to pump it up.
Don't know.
Yeah. I mean, they could find a way.
That's the developer's problem.
Right.
That's right.
Not ours.
Shall we vote on it? Or no?
Make a motion and we can vote.
Well, I make a motion that we change the EV4 housing density to match the EV district. And charge the committee with coming up with the proper wording and so forth to make that happen.
Is there a second?
Well, just for clarification, east of EVD.
East of Flanders Street.
Okay.
Wait, say it again?
I don't think I can.
We'll have to ask John, you know?
Yeah.
Well,
And
Flanders
because he
and
remembers
So the
Oak
motion
Grove.
is the western portion of the EV4 district that we change the housing density limitation
To match EV.
to match the EV district.
I guess my only discussion would be then why wouldn't we just put the whole thing in EV?
Because we would have several commercial entities here that do not conform to everything else in the ED or the EV.
Right.
That would be another way to.
I mean,
I'd rather leave it as is,
yeah,
So would I.
as it's written currently.
With the.
yeah.
But he made a motion, there's,
I haven't heard a second.
There may not be a second.
There is no second.
Well, then let's move on. Let's see, where do I want to go next?
Probably want to go down on Baltic Street.
I think scroll forward.
Union and Pillsbury?
Go back to the directory and the stick. Good place. Okay. Yes,
Yeah,
here.
that one. This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
So,
Yeah.
and I'm so sorry to bring this up, but, and it may not get a second, but let me just bring it up. We do need to make one change to this map, the EVD. We just got it, well, we don't got it, but there's a lot here that got included inadvertently. It does not front Route 4, it's a lot up the street.
So it's EV.
So I want to make that change.
So it becomes an EV?
Yeah.
Okay,
And then,
hold on.
Great.
Yeah.
And then here, after walking this street a couple of times, and thinking about the conversations we had about the Baltic Mill, should it be in the downtown or not? I have to include, I was wrong. I think it should be in the downtown district. Because none of these, all of these lots have access onto Baltic Street.
Yeah.
Nobody has access on Route 4. Even here, it's a steep slope right off the side. You know,
Yeah.
You gotta come here.
Yeah.
The housing, number of housing units you could put in here is unlimited because of the EVD
Right.
requirements, so, you know, that's not an issue. It's actually an eminently walkable street
Yep.
because the traffic is slow and so forth. All the reasons they were
Yep.
arguing that
The
I
other way.
didn't listen to, now I hear them.
Yeah.
So, do you have any stomach for that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Make a motion.
I make a motion that we move the Baltic Street area that was originally EV4 and move it into the EVD district.
And
I'll second
I
that.
think part of that motion, this whole yellow piece, because these two lots, they benefit, they do not benefit from being in the Route 4 district. You could arguably say maybe in the EV, but just for continuity,
We put them in the, had lots 2A and 3 also. That border US Route 4 should be included in the EVD
Why don't you
district.
just list off the lot numbers? All the lots, numbers, X,
there's two of them that
X
have the
through
numbers on
Y.
there.
2A, 3.
yeah, these two
Yeah,
small
those
ones, I
are
don't know
two.
what those lot numbers are.
There's swamps, 19, 19A, 20, 21, and 23. Be moved into the EVD district.
yeah, someone needs to look them up because one has a house right up against the
They both-
bank.
they
Both of
have
these
houses
have
on
houses.
They both of them were built without any, anything.
Well, I think the motion is
Right,
clear enough.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I seconded the motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Okay, last
Abstentions,
one is,
okay.
Eric's gonna kill me
Disagree.
about this one.
Yeah.
I do not see why we included these houses on Union Street as part of the EVD. I get it why we got the Union Street Fire Station. We wanted to max flexibility into what the town could, the person who bought it could do with it. But otherwise, these lots have, in my eyes, they're in the EV, they're not in the EVD. You're not gonna put any sort of commercial stuff down there. There's no visibility from Route 4. Yes, you could have an ice cream stand in your backyard and serve the rail trail, but that's a home business and that wouldn't be a problem. So anyway, that's my argument.
It just makes the map look really weird if you have that
Because you
one
spot
lot
zoned.
sticking there.
And I do disagree.
You
I think
spot
those-
zoned.
I think those lots have a
Yeah.
unique potential. And like one of the things that I personally would love to see in town would be like a bike rental business. And like one of those lots would be a perfect place for someone to do that, should they choose to do it. So I'd like to give them the flexibility of being in the EVD.
I'm not gonna argue anymore about it.
Yeah.
So no motion forthcoming, we'll move on.
Nobody has a motion? Let's move on.
Let's move on. Back to the stick, see if I can remember what's in there.
Oh, that's the one we fixed, okay. There's another little thing, divot.
We're good there.
That's it.
Hey, wait a minute, you had one more little red correction. Ah. And
That's all
off
we
it
need to
goes.
move that. We got that one.
We got that.
Yeah.
Little
lot on Flanders.
Can't read those little letters. Yeah, same.
No, I think we got everything there.
Yeah.
Is that on Flanders?
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one on Flanders.
Right here,
Oh.
The little one.
I'm touching it right here with my mouse, put it there.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
You already talked about that.
yeah.
Yeah, we talked
but
about
I-
that.
Is that this one? That one looks,
That's it, Flanders, this is Flanders right here, that's that one.
Yeah.
okay.
All right, we need to-
And what about this one? Did we get that one?
That's it.
Same thing.
Same one.
It's the same one.
Yeah. It's
Just
just,
hasn't, it doesn't match the color coding thing that you were saying.
Rob,
so.
could you go to the new ordinance and go to the definition section? Your definition of structure, we need to confirm that.
That's page 121.
he's got it.
Yeah, okay.
Hang on, let me share this for the people online. Share. Boom. Okay.
All right, so here, we tasked Rob with coming up with a new definition. He gave it to us, and then we debated it at our last meeting. And we wanted to add something about retaining walls and parking spaces as an exception. So I made some wording changes. Is this okay?
Lots of 6 or fewer exempt. Yeah.
Is that what we meant? Here, I added that, and this phrase here.
That is what we talked about.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Since we say retaining walls, do we need this last paragraph, this last phrase?